Okay, this is the lesson on the 2.1 notes, writing equations and verbal expressions. Basically, that means we're going to convert something that looks like a word problem into an equation that we can then solve. In order to do that, we have to know what some of these words mean. So sum, this one right here, is always means we're doing an addition problem. And some other words that we might see when we have an addition problem are added to, greater than, increased by, and the symbol for that, as you know, is the plus symbol. Which reminds me, that's another word. We might just see the word plus. All right, difference. That's represents when we're doing subtraction. It's the answer to a subtraction problem. Some other words, some synonyms would be reduced by, less than, decreased by, minus or subtract. Don't really see people saying takeaway too much anymore. The symbol for that is minus. All right, product is when we have a multiplication problem. And you might see the word times, or by a factor of. And the symbol for that, the symbols for that, the one we normally use in this class is the large dot. Sometimes we're used to seeing an X, small x, but we try not to use that too often in here because it can get confused with the variable x. We also sometimes see just a number next to a parenthesis with something else in there. So that represents multiplications too. When there's no symbol between two variables, they're multiplied, or if there's in a parenthesis and something in front of it, those are multiplied. Finally, well, not finally, quotient is when we have a division problem. You'll also see the word divide or divided by. You'll see ratio. And the symbols for that are the division symbol. And more frequently than not, you'll see a straight line like that, so we can keep things organized top and bottom. Every now and then you'll see it written with it more of a slant, like this. But really, the one we use the most is probably this one. All right, next is, when you see that in a statement, 3 more than a number is, that's really what we're saying is equals. It's the answer, or the what everything amounts to. And the symbol for that is the equal sign. Consecutive is a word that a lot of people struggle with. It just means two things that are in a row or next to each other. So, for example, two consecutive numbers would be 1, comma 2. Those are consecutive. 3. These are all consecutive numbers because they're right next to one another. When we talk about consecutive even numbers, we would go 2, 4, 6. So those are about 2 apart. Those are 2 apart, and consecutive numbers are 1 apart. So that's all that consecutive means, just one coming right after the other. All right, we're going to use some of this language now to try and solve some of these, or at least to write the equations. We have this statement that we need to translate: the sum of 53 and the product of 4 and b. So we're going to add 53 and the product of 4 and b. So I'm going to write those. 53 plus the product of 4 and b just means we're going to multiply 4 times b. And then we have equals 21. That is that statement translated. Sum of 53 and the product of 4 and b equals 21. You can put these in parentheses, but that's not necessary because of order of operations in that case. The difference of 5 and the quotient of x and 3 is 23. So we're going to go through those step by step. We'll say difference of 5 quotient of x and 3 is 23. That's translated. So now we can go ahead and try some of these next ones. I'd like you to try these on your own and then come back and check my answer. So hit pause, see if you get this one right. Typically we struggle with the less than statements. So let's see how you do. Hit pause. When you're ready, come back and see the solution. All right, so 7 less than 4 times a number equals 13. Well, 7 less than something means we're going to subtract 7 from something. Well, the something here is 4 times a number. So we'd say 4x. Now we want 7 less than that. So we're going to say minus 7. And then that is equal to 13. And then the easy way to solve that, add 7 to both sides. This is probably the last one we'll solve, and then you can solve the rest on your own. We have 4x equals 20. Probably need to divide by 4. And so that our answer would be x equals 5. It says what is the number. All right. Pause there. If you need to look at it, we're going to go on to number 4. Same thing, I'd like you to try it, and then after you've got your work done, check your answer with me. Okay, so 3 is added to a number. Well, the number is x. 3 is added to it. And then that sum is multiplied by 3. It's a little bit tricky because then we're going to take all of that and we're going to multiply it by 3. And then the result of that is 16. There you go. Now if we solve that, oh shoot, we said multiplied by 4. Sorry. I multiplied by 3. That should be a 4 out there. The reason I realized I made a mistake is now when I go to solve this, I need to divide both sides by 4. So now I have x plus 3 equals 4. Subtract 3 from both sides. X equals 1. All right, pause there if you need to look at that. Otherwise, we're moving on to the next problem. So then I'm just going to write these so you can solve them on your own. Try these on your own and then pause, or I'll pause. You should pause now until you have your work finished, and then you can look at my answer. A number is divided by 4. It's just x over 4. That is added to 3. And the result is 24. When you go to solve that, you're going to subtract 3, then multiply 3 from each side, then multiply both sides by 4. Negative 1/8 of a number is negative 3/4. Negative 1/8 of a number, it's just negative 1/8, and that of is times. So negative 1/8 x is, oops, that should have been underlined in green. Negative 1/8 of a number is negative 3/4. And then to solve that, you're just going to multiply by negative 8 over 1, both sides. All right. Let's moving forward. Try number 7. Again, try it, and then, so pause now, try this, and then when you're ready, come back to me. 5 times the sum of a number and 3. Well, 5 times something, the sum of a number and 3. It's just x plus 3. Is the same as 3 multiplied by, oh, I need another color here, 1 less than twice the number. Now, again, 1 less than something means you write the something first. So twice the number, and then 1 less. And then in those, you would distribute the 5 to this side, the 3 to this side, and then move your like terms. Move the x's one way and the numbers the other. I'll solve that real quickly so you can see it. Poof. So there it is, worked out. I hope that's helpful. Now we're just going to get to a couple of consecutive problems, and then we'll be finished with this lesson. So here you want to stay with me. 2 consecutive integers. That just means, consecutive integers are whole numbers. And so, for example, that'd be 4 and 5. That's an example of 2 consecutive integers. They're just one right after the other. Well, in this case, if we label those, I'm going to do that a little differently now that I think about it. I'm going to go 4, and then I'm going to say 5 in green. Well, if you think of 4 as the first integer, let's just call that x. And then it says sum. So we're going to go, the second integer is going to be 4 plus 1, or x plus 1. That's the way of thinking of 2 consecutive integers, x and x plus 1. So in our equation, we're just going to write x plus 1 equals 115, which means we have 2 x's and 1, so we have 2x plus 1 equals 115. Then to solve this, we subtract 1. We get 2x equals 114. Divide both sides by 2. And we end up with our first number is x equals 57. But they want 2 consecutive integers, so we're going to add 1 to that, and then it's going to be 58 as well. So that's our answer. 57, and 58. Consecutive odd integers would be like 3, 5, and 7. But what we want to notice is that if we call the first one x, we'd have to call the next one. Let me change that real quickly. We'd have to call that next one plus x plus 2 because it's 2 away. It's 1, 2. Then that last one would be plus x plus 1, 2, 3, 4. So now if we put that all together, our equation would be 1, 2, 3 x's plus 2 plus 4, which is 6, is equal to 117. Subtract 6 from both sides. 3x equals 111. Divide by 3. And so we have our first number is x equals 37. Well, we know the next two are 2 apart and 4 apart, so we're going to add 2 to that. And we get 39. And then we'd add 4 to the 37 and get 41. So that is our solution. That's it for this lesson. You can move on to the homework then, if you haven't already.